welcome to the second video for GM1, and we're going to pick up all the stuff we did in the first video and do some questions. First of all, let's remind ourselves what we did in the first video. Well, the first thing, we looked at parallel lines and we looked at different letters we can make to help us find the angles. So first up, we looked at Z angles, alternate angles. So you can see there's a Z there, and if you look in your homework booklet, you'll see the Z's outlined to make them a bit clearer. So in the top ones, we've got a normal Z and a backward Z, showing us that the angles marked A are the same, as are the angles marked B. Bottom left, we've got an F, where the letters A show the angles the same, and those angles are the angles below the horizontal bits of the F. And then finally we got a slightly different one, the letter C, where A and B, as marked there, add up to be 180. Okay, now there's also some other stuff you need to know, and you need to know this one, angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So there could be two or more angles, but they add up to 180. And that one there, opposite angles are equal. So when you get the X shape, then the two opposite angles are equal. And the one that everyone knows, angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So in your homework book, you've got 5 questions. Let's have a very quick look at the first one. Now in the exam, you have to spot this first. So see where the pink circles come? And there they go. Now that's the little arrows that show that we're dealing with parallel lines. So what you're going to look for in all the 5 questions are Z's, F's, C's, but maybe first have a look for opposite angles, X's, have a look for angles in a triangle, have a look for angles on a straight line. So there's all those things to look at. So press pause and have a go at the questions. When you want to check them, just press play, and it might be that you just do one, check the answer, or do all 5 and check the answers, whichever way. Press pause now, have a go at the questions. Okay, so how did you get on? Now, number 1 is quite a nice one. There's only 2 angles to find out. Now let's have a look. So those pink circles highlight the fact that we've got 2 parallel lines, and it's easy to miss those little arrows in an exam. They do put them quite small. Really important that we see we got parallel lines. So we've got to find X first. Now what's going to help us here is we can see it there, look. There's a Z, so we've got alternate angles. Straight away we can say X is 64 degrees. Now I've written alternate angles in red. You don't have to write it to get the mark here, but just showing you how we worked it out. And sometimes in some questions they say work out angle X and give a reason. They don't say give a reason here, but if they did, we would then write alternate angles. Now, what about letter Y? Well, what other letters have we looked at in that first video? We looked at the C. Now, there it is. There's a C. So we know that 150 plus Y is 180. In other words, Y is 180 minus 150, which is 30 degrees. And if you had to say a reason, you don't have to, but if you did, you would say they're supplementary angles. So we had a Z and a C there for X is 64, Y is 30. Excellent. Let's have a look at number 2. So this one just looks a little bit more complicated. It's not too bad. I mean, there are 3 letters, but it's not too bad. First up, always look for the easy things. Now, the easiest one to look for is opposite angles, the X. There we go. If you have a look at that, there's a nice green X. So A is 42. Can we see any Z's, F's or C's to get B? Well, have a look at that. There's B. And we've got the letter C. So we know that B is 180 minus 42. That's going to be 138 degrees. And finally, what about C? Well, we've had a Z, we've had a C, maybe there's an F in it, and there is in fact a giant upside down F. Let's have a look at that. There it is. Look, there's the side ones going off there, and so A and C are the same. So C must be 42. There's the upside down F. So it's not always easy to spot upside down Z's, F's or C's, but with a bit of practice you'll be able to do it. So we can see that C is 42 because they are corresponding angles on that upside down F shape. Okay, let's move on. Number 3. So again, this one looks a little bit complicated, and actually with this one, this is off a higher paper. The first two were for foundation paper, so this one we need to find out some other angles which aren't given letters, so we need to do a bit more work. So let's have a look. Now if we wanted to find Q, you might spot an upside down F, but another way, okay, and I should stress here that there's lots of ways of doing these questions, so you don't have to do it the same way as I'm doing, as long as you got the same answer. So you might have noticed that Z there, so that means that that angle there is the same as Q, but it doesn't help us because we don't know that angle. Or do we? Let's have a look. There's an X, nice easy X to spot, so that means that that green one must be 72. Now we can go back, put our Z in, and there it is. Q must be 72. Like I said, there's lots of ways of doing this. You might have spotted an upside down F to get Q, but I just did the Z there. Let's have a look now at R. Now actually what we've got here is a backwards F. So we can see that actually that 72 and R are the same. There's the backwards F there, look. So R is 72 degrees. What about S then? Right, now S then, well we notice that Z, don't we? So we know that S is the same as that one, which I'm going to put a green arc on, but we don't know that one. Or do we? What have we got here? We've got angles on a straight line. The green one plus 117 equal 180. So in other words, the green one must be 63 degrees. That's using angles on a straight line. And now we can put the Z back in. There it is, bit of a backward Z. So S is 63. Now when it comes to finding T, we notice it's in a triangle. We know that's 72 on the left. It'd be nice to know the angle on the right. And we've got opposite angles again. That X is very useful, and we may well use that quite a lot in these questions. So opposite angles means that one is 63. Now let's have a look at the triangle there. We know angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 72 plus 63 is 135. 180 minus 135 is 45. So there we go. That's a bit trickier question. What some people do is they just work out lots of angles and then see how that helps them. And that's not a bad strategy. Let's have a look at number 4. There's only 2 marks this. This one is off an old higher paper as well. Let's make it a bit bigger and have a little look. Now, we notice that 145, and actually no, there's a C there. Now they haven't asked us to find that one, but we could find it out. 180 minus 145 is 35, so that one up there is 35. Okay, so what help does that give us? Well actually, if we look now, we've got angles on a straight line up there. The 3 of them, the 35, the 80, plus the one that's got nothing there. So 35 plus 80 is 115. 180 minus 115 is 65. So that one there is 65. So why am I bothering doing all these angles which we haven't been asked for? Well, this is why, because when we want to find y, there is a great big forward C there, bit slanty but still facing forward, so we know that y is 180 minus 65, 115. You may well have used a different strategy to get it. As long as you've got 115, then that's excellent. Okay, let's have a look at number 5. Now I don't like it there on the side. What I'm going to do is turn it around. Notice we've got the arrows showing as parallel lines. Now we don't have to work them out in the order A, B, C, D, E, but it generally works out that that's the easiest way of doing it. What do you notice about A? There we go, I said we use it a lot. The X, the opposite angles, A must be 70. Now remember our letters, we've got to remember Z's, F's and C's. Anything jumping out about A and B? Well, if you look here, we've got a fairly big upside down F. There's the upside down F, so B must be the same as A, and they're called corresponding angles, and so that means B is 70 degrees. Now I've written the reasons down here. They're in red. You don't need to write them down to get the marks in this particular question, but as I said earlier, sometimes they ask us to state why we can say that B is 70. Now Now then, so C, well that looks nice. There's a triangle there, look. Whenever we've got a triangle, we're normally going to use the fact that angles add up to 180. So we've got a 70, we've got a 35, that's 105. So C must be 180, take away 105, 75. There we go. So actually we've used opposite angles, X, we've used corresponding angles, and upside down F. We've used angles in a triangle. What's next? Well, let's have a look. What about D? Can you see there is a backward Z? So that means D is 35. And if we had to state the reason, we would say that's alternate angles. So we've used Z's, F's, angles in a triangle, X's for opposite angles. We haven't used our C. Now, can we do that here? We've got D is 35 up there. Oh, look, there's an enormous C there. So we know that E plus D must be 180, the two angles inside the big letter C. So that means E is 180 minus 35, 145. And there we have it. So, if you got any wrong, just go back over them, wind the video back, just make sure you're okay doing it. You didn't have to do the exact same way as me, as long as you got the correct answer. That's good. Well, that's enough for one day. So it's bye from me, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.